Welcome back, folks. My name's Shane. In today's video, we're going to test out the Panasonic Lumix G100 with autofocus to some extent using a whole range of different lenses in my Micro Four Thirds collection. Now, when this camera came out, I was one of the guys that grilled it. I thought, man, what are they doing releasing a vlogging camera with no in-body image stabilization or no traditional IBIS system? It seemed like the most ridiculous thing we'd all ever heard, but if you're looking for a small Micro Four Thirds camera that gives you the old school feel that's still current, this is a really great choice for hybrid shooting. It's a solid video camera in its own way. It's not by any means the most technically proficient camera out there, but it's also an excellent photography camera, and because of that, it might make for the perfect travel companion depending on your particular needs. Now, the G100 isn't as good as the GH7, the G9 Mark II, or maybe even the GH5 Mark II, but it represents great value if you can pick it up used. I actually purchased this for 400 Australian dollars on the second-hand market, and I couldn't be happier. And it came with the little lens, the 12 to 32 millimeter, I think it is, or something like that. We'll test that out in a bit, but I wanted to showcase what kind of video quality you can get out of this in 2026, because if it works for doing this kind of stuff, or if you're relegated to using manual focus, I still think this might be a winner for people who are on a budget looking to get some way better image quality than what you'll find out of a phone. Now, you can debate whether or not this looks better than a phone in the comments section, but I know through experience the Micro Four Thirds sensor is way superior to any mobile phone in most scenarios. There's only one scenario where I would say that the phone is going to be better, and that's when it comes to stabilization. If you're going to be shooting video and walking with the camera, you might want to pick something else. But for tripod shots like this, or for someone working in a studio, they might want to upgrade from a webcam. We're going to test this out and see whether or not it's still worth it. All right, let's kick things off with the widest lens I've got in my collection. This is the Panasonic Leica 9mm f1.7, or actually f1.8. So this is now at f1.7. This is a great lens if you plan on being right next to the camera. I'm at arm's length, and I'm still able to create some really nice shallow depth of field. Again, this is with autofocus. I'm not going to move around too much in the frame, but I'll move around a little bit to see whether or not it loses me to the background or whether it maintains my face in focus. And again, I'm not expecting much from the autofocus system, but fingers crossed, it does okay when I lean in. I'm kind of animated. I like to move around a little bit, so hopefully the camera can keep up with me. And this would also be a great lens if you plan on using it as a webcam as well, within close proximity. So if you're going to be plonking it on a desk in front of you, the 9mm f1.7 is probably the way to go. You can sometimes find these on sale, and other times they're a little bit on the expensive side because they are the Leica branded lenses. But this is one of my favorite Micro Four Thirds lenses of all time, and you can be the judge what you think. And now you're looking at the Lumix 12 to 32mm f3.5 to 5.6 kit lens. And if you're just getting into this camera, the higher the f-stop number is, the less shallow depth of field you're going to get. So f3.5 looks like this versus the 9mm at f1.7. You're going to see more background blur on the wider lens. Even though it's wider, it's still going to be a lot faster, giving you some really nice shallow depth of field. But at 12mm, this is how it looks. Now, I'm going to share with you a lens I would buy any day of the week over this next. So stay tuned. That'll be the 12 to 35 f2.8. So let's switch it up. Now, if I was to recommend one lens for anyone getting into this camera, it would be this one. This is the 12 to 35mm version 2 from Lumix. Now, this particular lens has a few different iterations. There's version 1, which has this weird sort of red and grey look to it. Version 2, which is this one, it's all black. And then version 3, which is the Leica version, it's got yellow on there. Now, I have version 2, which is this one, and version 3, but this represents better value for money, and I think if you're going to be getting a zoom lens for travel, this would be the way to go, because it goes from 12mm all the way in to 35 with a constant f2.8 aperture, which is killer. So it's a big advantage over the kit lens. Now, the kit lens gets the advantage because of its size, but this gets the advantage in every other way. It gives you a really premium look, in my opinion, and after using this lens for the last few years, it's one that I still don't plan on getting rid of. Even though I've got two lenses that are basically the same, this 12 to 35 version 2 is phenomenal. This next lens is from a third-party manufacturer called Yongnuo, and they make a range of different Micro Four Thirds lenses and lenses for other camera mounts also. And this is great because it's not only an f1.7 aperture, but it's giving us a very close to 35mm field of view. And with Micro Four Thirds and the G100, because it's a Micro Four Thirds sensor in here, This allows you to create some really nice subject separation. The higher the focal length goes, if we can maintain that f1.7 aperture, the more nice shallow depth of field you'll see, and you'll notice this as we continue through the lenses. So let's switch it up. Up next is probably the best value prime lens you're going to buy for micro four thirds. This is the 25mm f1.7 prime lens, and if you're just getting into it, I highly recommend these lenses. I still have 2 of them. I used to have 4 back when I had my micro four thirds multi-camera setup, but I still have 2 of these left because they're not only exceptional value, but I love the look of these. Some people who have more professional lenses will say the background looks a little bit too busy sometimes, or the bokeh quality isn't as nice as other more expensive lenses. But at the end of the day, these lenses look great. If you're going to be in a studio, you want a tighter talking headshot like this, and you're going to be a few feet back or a couple of meters back from the camera, this is a really solid choice. I'm about an extra step and a half back from where I was with the prior lens as well, and you can probably already start to see a difference in the background blur amount. Even though we're still at f1.7, as we go up the focal lengths, you're going to see that the background gets even more creamy. But there's more. Let's do it. And now I'm several more steps back from where I was before, showcasing the 42.5mm f1.7 prime lens. This is the equivalent of an 85mm portrait lens on full frame, but for micro four thirds. And this lens is a great pairing for the Lumix G100 because not only is the camera small, this lens is tiny. It's just slightly larger, I think, than the kit lens. So you're getting a really professional look. I think micro four thirds really nails the portrait focal lengths. There's a few really special lenses in the range, while this one can exhibit some chromatic aberration, and some people again find the background blur a little too blurry. I actually really like this lens. I picked it up secondhand for an absolute steal, so I am not complaining given the price. I think I paid 200 Australian dollars for it, or somewhere around there, which I thought was excellent value. So yeah, this is another really great choice if you plan on doing any sort of talking headshots, interviews, all that kind of stuff. Or if you just want to take some portrait photos, it's an obvious choice, and this is the look. Check it out. Now what I'm going to do is show you the difference between this kit lens at 32mm f5.6 and the lens that you're currently looking at, which is the Panasonic 42.5mm f1.7. So let's do it. Before we get in the comment section, I know that this isn't an apples to apples comparison, but what I wanted to show you here is how the kit lens at 32mm f5.6, which is its fastest aperture at this focal length, compares up against this tiny prime lens at f1.7. So I'm going to try and frame this the best that I can to give you an equivalent, but it is what it is. It's not going to look identical, but this is the lens that comes with the camera body if you do buy the kit. Let's switch it over. And now you're looking at the Lumix 42.5mm f1.7 prime at, of course, f1.7. Can you see a huge difference? Let's switch it back. And back to the kit lens. Pay good attention here to the background blur, subject separation, and how my face looks in the shot up against this guy. Let's switch it back. And back to the Lumix 42.5mm f1.7 prime. And as you can see, there's a big difference in the end result. I would have no problems using this combination for any of the stuff that I do. The fast lens, this fast aperture, will also improve the low light performance and capability of the camera, because you'll be keeping the ISO lower in any shooting situation, which will give you a nicer end result. So keep that in mind. But yeah, these little kit lenses like this are good if you get the free one. It's a good little travel lens. It has optical image stabilization. It's got a nice zoom range, but it's not going to give you the same premium look as some of the primes. So keep that in mind. The most of the image quality comes from whatever lens you put on your camera, not necessarily that much to do with the sensor anymore, because they're all pretty great. Let us know in the comment section which lens looked the best to your eye and why. I'm a big fan of that 42.5mm lens, so if you can find one used, definitely pick one up, or the 25mm f1.7. If you're into vlogging or webcam scenario, that Leica 9mm is really something special. Let's do a quick vlogging test. All right, let's do a vlogging test. So this is the Lumix G100 with the 12 to 32mm, not 35, f 3.5 to 5.6. This is with the E-stabilization on standard. Now this lens has optical image stabilization, which makes it a good choice. And the camera is now on the standard E-stabilization, and it will be throughout this test, because with it off, it's unusable. So just keep that in mind. I'm also using a little selfie stick here because I need to get the camera a little bit further away from me due to the fact that there's a bit of a crop once you start using the E-stab. But is it usable with autofocus? Let us know. And just to prove I'm using autofocus, will it go to the background? hopefully it's found my head and we're back. So let's switch lenses. And now you're looking at the 9mm f1.7 Leica lens at, of course, f1.7, which should give me a more premium look. And this is with the E-stabilization set to standard. The reason these 9mm lenses are so good for vlogging is if you need to use the E-stab, it will crop in but still give you a nice wide field of view. So let's turn this E-stabilization up to high. And this is the 9mm with the E-stabilization set to high, which looks like it's cropped in quite a lot more. It almost looks like a 12mm field of view here. So yeah, but these are the kind of stabilization results you can get out of the camera. While there's no mechanical IBIS system, hopefully this digital stabilization is enough to get by on, but I guess we'll find out in post-production. The last lens I wanted to showcase is the 12 to 35mm f2.8 at 2.8, because this has optical image stabilization. So we've got that going for us. Plus the stabilizer is now set to standard mode. So it's not cropping in as heavily as it would be on high. And these are the kind of results you can get out of it. Again, I'm walking over really mixed terrain right here. This gravel car park has dents and crap all over it. So yeah, you can be the judge whether or not this can work for you. And if you prefer even a tighter field of view, you can just zoom in a little bit and get this kind of level of stabilization. But the wider the better, which I think is why the 9mm still wins. Let's wrap this up. I'm going to give you my final thoughts here on the Panasonic Lumix G100 camera with the selection of lenses I tested with it. Now, I've got more lenses for Micro Four Thirds, but these are the ones that I thought might suit this camera the best. I'm going to talk about the winners in this scenario. So my favorite lens combination with the G100 was this, the 42.5mm f1.7 prime. This looked amazing. The autofocus was way more stable and the end result looked beautiful. It looked really cool. So yeah, if you're looking for the most amount of background blur, great low light performance or better low light performance on a smaller sensor, this is definitely the way to go. And it's nice and small. It's got optical image stabilization and you can almost get macro photos out of this lens. It's a really impressive lens. And again, I picked this up secondhand, and if you can find one of these on the used market, they're usually pretty cheap. But yeah, this one is really cool and I can highly recommend it. The second lens that I was really impressed with was the Yongnuo 17mm f1.7. And another advantage to this is there's a manual focus switch on the side, which means you can pull focus manually or use the touch to focus on the screen of the G100, which is something that some of these lenses don't have. So I really like that. I think the takeaway with the autofocus performance was these two were the most stable, the 17 and the 42.5, and the rest were less stable when it came to the autofocus jitters. Now, just to let you know, when I first started this video, I was using the 25mm f1.7, and I had to set the speed and sensitivity higher than default. So I've got them set to +1 on the speed and +2 on the sensitivity, because the 25mm lens lost me a couple of times with the default settings. So I just left everything there. In hindsight, I should have probably have recorded the entire video using manual focus, but I figure most people buying this, if you're just getting into it, will be using autofocus for video. When it came to the vlogging tests, I think the takeaway is the electronic image stabilization is terrible. There's a lot of rolling shutter, there was a lot of corner wobble, there was a lot of just nasty stuff going on. So I probably wouldn't use this for handheld vlogging unless you've got it on a gimbal. Now, if you've got a gimbal, this will give you really great results, and I think I'll need to test that going forward in a future video. You might remember just over a year or so ago, I reviewed the G100, but I only had it for a brief period of time, unfortunately, so I didn't really get to know it as well as what I get to know my other cameras in my collection. So now that I've got it, if there's anything in particular you want me to cover with this, let us know in the comments, drop a thumbs up if you can, and let us know what you think of the G100 if you're a fan. Or if this video was helpful, let us know which lens you like the best, and I'll link down to everything down in the description if you want to check it out in your part of the world. My name's Shane. I will catch you on the next one. See ya.